Hello, welcome back to Farmbiz with Markay. Do you know, in achieving maximum broiler weight, says 3 kg in 5 weeks, there are certain things you need to do before, during, and immediately after your birth arrived? If you fail to do this, you might not be able to achieve those maximum weight you see people show off on social media. In this video, I'll be showing you the things you must do just before your chicks arrive at the pickup station, as well as the things you do immediately your chicks gets to your farm to ensure your birds get off with a very good and sound start. Now, the very first thing you do before your chicks arrive when you are planning to raise your broiler is to look around your pen and look for any area that needs to be fixed, like broken nets, a cracked floor, as the case may be. So you need to block all crevice or any hole that you perceive that rodent can follow into your pen. You need to block them. If there are any area you've not put net, you need to place net on those area and ensure that nothing can get it, no rodent or white bird can get into your pen. So the next thing you also do, you ensure that within that around that net there is free flow of air, that is, there is cross ventilation. If that is in place, the next thing you must do is to sweep and clean the floor properly, as well as the ceiling and the wall. Remove every form of cobweb, every form of dirt. You remove them, after which you wash and clean the floor with a detergent solution. Now, you may need to soak the floor for some time, so that any stubborn poo that refuse to leave the floor as a result of sweeping can be brushed off either with broom or brush. Now, once that is done, the next thing you also need to do is to, after washing the floor and it has dried, the next thing you do is to disinfect the pen with a very good disinfectant. Now, in my subsequent video, I'll be showing you how to make an effective organic disinfectant at a very cheap price that you can use to disinfect your pen as well, in case you don't want to go the synthetic route. So those are you after washing and disinfecting your pen, the next thing you do is to restrict access to that pen. That is, cover around the pen, the place where you want to do your brooding, carve it out, then cover it with either liner or tarpaulin, and restrict access into that pen. Very, very important. You restrict access to that pen. Don't allow anybody to enter in there. Now, after restricting access to the pen, you have to ensure you make room for your biosecurity, that is foot deep or foot bath, where whoever wants to enter into the pen can dip his or her foot before entering into the pen. So once this is in place, the next thing you also do before your chicks arrive is to go and source for good quality litters, beddings that you can use for your litters, for your brooding. Now, some people opt for sawdust or wood shave, as the case may be. Whichever one is available at your disposal is what you should go for. But if you choose to use the sawdust, you need to cover it with either carton or newspaper, so that the chicks don't have access to it for the first few days. This is very, very important, because in order for them to be able to differentiate between feed and sawdust, you need to cover it with either carton or newspaper. Once this is done, another thing you also need to do before your chicks arrive is to ensure that the drinkers, the feeder is properly set up, is properly placed in the right position. Now, normally what I tell people, there are recommendations when you want to choose the number of feeders or drinkers you should use for your batch. For instance, it is recommended that you use 1 tray feeder to about 30 chicks. But in my own case, I don't normally do that. Now, I always try to ensure that every chicks has access to feed at all time. In that case, I reduce this number from 30 to about 20 per tray feeder. So I have more than enough tray feeder in the pen so that they don't struggle for feed, as well as drinker. Now, it is recommended that for drinkers, like this 3 liters drinker is recommended for 50 chicks. But in my case, again, I assume 3 liters drinkers to 25 chicks. Now, though I normally make use of this manual drinkers for the first first 1 or 2 days, after which I remove them because I have the bed drinkers as well as the nipple drinkers, and they enjoy drinking from nipple drinker as well as the bed drinkers. So you just need to ensure that you lift it up the floor a little, at least to the back level of the chicks, so that they don't jump into it easily, so that they don't mess it up easily, especially the bed drinker and the manual drinkers. Now you will need to also adjust the nipple drinkers to the eye level, or a little above the eye level of the chicks, so that they can peck on it easily. This is because if it's too low, the floor will be wet, because as they peck on it, much water will be dripping on the floor, and this will not be good for your brooder. Very, very important. Now, for the nipple drinkers, in case you want to use nipple drinkers for your brooding, now I normally assume 10 chicks to 1 nipple drinker. 10 chicks to 1 nipple drinker, but though the recommendation is above this, some people recommend 20 chicks per nipple drinkers, some people recommend 25 chicks per nipple drinkers, but I don't want them to struggle for resources during this period. I don't want it. So what I do, I ensure there is more than enough nipple drinkers for them to drink from. That is the essence why I also add the manual drinkers as well as the bed drinkers, so that they don't need to travel far before they can have access to drinking water. This is also very, very important. Now, before your chicks arrive, also you also need to put your water source in place. Test all the system to be sure that everything is working well. Is your water system, the nipples, is water coming out from them? You need to tap on them to be sure that there is nothing obstructing the flow of water from the nipples as well as the bed drinkers. Now, after setting up the drinkers, the feeders, the bedding materials and all of that, remember this time you restrict access to the pen. Very, very important to maintain good biosecurity. Now, the next thing you do is your heating source, because your chicks, they need heat higher than their body temperature for the first few days, if not up to 1 week. This is very, very important. The temperature they need from that very first few days is about 32 to 35 degrees centigrade. This is very important. You need to provide heat source to provide this heat for them. Some people make use of charcoal as their heat source. Some people kerosene stove. Some other ones make use of gas brooder. Like in my case, I enjoy using gas brooder. I prefer gas brooder to any other form of heat source. This is because of the convenience, the ease of use and all of that. So after setting up the heat source, another important thing you also need to do is to set up your lighting point. Now, the place needs to be bright enough. Your brooder needs to be bright enough for your chicks to be able to see the drinkers as well as the feed to eat and drink from. This is also very, very important, because as soon as you cover the place with tarpaulin or nylon, the whole place will be dark, even during the daytime. So ensure there is light in the brooder 24/7, so that your chicks, because for these first few weeks, your chicks need to be eating 24/7, so that they will gain that weight, which is your target weight at that week 5 or week 6. This is also very, very important. It's one of the major things you need to do before your chicks arrival. Now, if you have been using your nipple drinkers to be raising your broilers for some time, now there are things you also need to do, which is one of the things you must do before your chicks arrive. Now, the nipple line, that is the pipe you connect your nipple drinkers to, you need to flush it with chlorine. That is, there is this tablet which they call isoclose, something like that. Then you need to put boil some hot water, pour it inside the tank. Then put some of this tablet inside that tank, and then open the outlet. And then open the outlet so that water can go in, that hot water can go into that pipe and remain there for some time before coming to open the outlet, so that the whole water will flush out. Now you will perceive the odor of this chlorine, so you need to flush the system. After this chlorinated water has been flushed out, you need to flush it severally, so that odor of chlorine will not be perceived in the water coming out from the nipple. Now the essence of this is to kill some biofilm that might be built up up in the pipe, so that they don't affect your chicks. So the purpose of this, of placing this chlorine inside the hot water to flush the pipe, is to ensure that the biofilm that might be built up in the pipe is completely destroyed before using it to raise your next batch. This is one of the things you also need to do before placing order for your new batch of day-old chicks to raise in the same pen using the same nipple drinkers. Now that you've done all of this, now you cannot go ahead and book your day-old chicks, place order for your day-old chicks. This will ensure you have a successful batch of broiler. If you don't do this, you are likely to experience some disease outbreak in your pen. This is very, very important. These are procedures that I normally undertake in my pen before raising my batch. Any batch of birds I raise, I do this before introducing new birds into my pen. This is very, very important. Now, before going to pick up your birds, now that you have booked your birds and they've told you, okay, the next day your birds are going to the number of birds you booked are going to arrive at the pickup station. What do you do now? Before going to pick up your birds, ensure you go early, because you don't need to wait so long so that you won't get there and meet some of the chicks dead. So you need to go there on time, pick it up, and then introduce them to your brooder as quickly as possible. This is because these chicks, they have already undergone some level of stress, except you are very close to the hatchery, which in most cases that might not be the case. Like my case is very, very far across several states before you get to my state. So I don't normally waste time. I go there at the time they ask me to be there, pick up my chicks on time, and then come and introduce them to my brooder. Now, when you get to, before going to the pickup station, there are things you need to do. You need to preheat your brooder to a certain temperature, that is to about 32 degrees centigrade, so that which is would be comfortable for your chicks when they arrive. It's not when your chicks arrive you start lighting up your heat source. No, you need to preheat the brooder to a certain to that temperature before going to pick up your day-old chicks. Now, at the pickup station, what do? The very first thing you do, my advice, is to always book your day-old chicks from a vendor that has agreed to always replace the dead ones. That is, if there is any mortalities, any vendor that agrees to replace it is a very good vendor that I think you should patronize. But that doesn't stop you from doing your own background check on such vendor before patronizing him or her. Now, the very first thing you do at the pickup station is to inspect the carton, because normally you meet some plastic rope that they normally use to tie the cover of the carton to the body of the carton. Now, if you some vendor will tell you, if you meet the carton broken in some form, or those rope cut, do not accept it. That means they must have tampered with that carton. Now, what you do, inspect it. If there is any opening, they've not tampered with it. Now, you need to lose those rope. Inspect the chicks. Is there any dead ones? Now, when you are doing this, you need to let the driver, that is the transporters, to be close so that they will be seeing what you are doing. Now, if there's any mortality, you need to call the drivers. You need to call the driver's attention to it, and then call your vendor in the driver's presence that, okay, this is the number of mortalities, because the work of the transporter is to ensure that your best gets to your hand complete without any mortality. So if there is any mortality, they will need to replace it. The vendor and the driver need to replace it, because you paid for everything. Now, after inspecting the carton, inspecting the chicks, and everything is okay, now the next thing you do is to open the carton and count them. Normally, you are supposed to have about 50 to 51 chicks per carton. That is one carton. Normally, one carton normally is 50, but they normally add one extra to each carton. So you need to count it, confirm that the birds are complete before leaving the pickup station. I always advise, please do not waste time. There are some people, imagine a transporter that lands in your state as early as 6 a.m., 7, 8, 9 a.m. as the case may be, and you are coming in the afternoon to pick up your chicks, those chicks are already overstressed. This shouldn't be encouraged. Ensure you go there on time, pick up your chicks, and introduce them to your brooder as quickly as possible. Now that you have picked up your day-old chicks and you are in your farm, which is the next thing you must do? That now when you get to your farm, the very first thing you do is to confirm their average weight. You need to weigh them, take the average weight. Now if you want to know how to take the average weight of day-old chicks, kindly check out this my video on how to take average weight of day-old chicks to know the arrival weight. This is also a measure that you can use to check if you are making progress or not. Now some people, this might not be very important to them, because I also know if you have the expected weight you are supposed to get at day 7, day 14, day 21, day 28, as the case may be, this might not necessarily be important, but it is important in the sense that by the time you observe those chicks that are not of weight, maybe some are about 30 something, 35 as the case may be, so that you can pay close attention to those chicks. This is very important. Then after confirming the weight, as I always advise, practice water before feed. This is very important. Now your heat source is in place, it's already on, your water and every other thing is been set up. Now the next thing you do is to after introducing the chicks, don't just give them feed to start eating immediately. No, you need to give them anti-stress. Add anti-stress into that water that they need to drink. Either you use glucose, add some glucose to the drinking water. This water doesn't need to be much, because they only need it to drink it for a few hours. Now after which you now turn to either plain water or add multivitamin to the plain water, depending on your medication chart that you adopt. But if you opt for the organic route, that okay, you want to raise your best organically, what you do, instead of adding glucose to the drinking water at arrival, what you do, you add honey to the drinking water. This is to ease them of the transportation stress. This is also very important. Now when you observe during this period, you observe that some chicks are not really going to the drinkers to drink, so you need to assist these chicks to drink. By the time you dip their beak into the water, you observe that okay, they've started drinking. Now some might be wondering, these nipple drinkers, don't you need to train your best on how to use them to drink from them? No. By the time the chicks, they learn fast. By the time they observe that one or two or three of them pecks on that nipple drinker, and they observe that water is coming out from there, before you know it, they will all rush to that nipple and start drinking from there. Before in no time, all of them will start drinking from the nipple. This is from my experience. I know this is how it works. Now, after observing this principle of water before feed, the next thing you do, remember, you must have allowed them to drink that water that you put anti-stress for about 30 minutes, also depending on the number of birds that you have. Now, after that, the next thing you do, you introduce feed. Now remember, you cover this floor with newspaper or carton. After introducing feed in the feeder, chicks feeder, either the flip top feeder or the manual feeder, that the tray feeder and the rest. Now you need to spray some feed on the newspaper. You need to spray some feed on the newspaper, so that they can have access to feed wherever they are. They need to have access to feed wherever they are. This is very important. You don't need to restrain feed from them for this period. This is very important, because remember, our target is to achieve the maximum weight as quickly as possible. Now after introducing feed to them, you need to give them some time. Maybe after about 2 hours, you need to come back and then come and observe 2 tests. The number 1 test you need to observe is crop feel. What do I mean by crop feel? You need to pick some very good sample, check their crop. Now you observe that some of their crop within these few hours is swollen. You feel something like lump in their crop. Some will be solid, some will be soft, sort of. So those ones that are soft, those are the ones that have drank enough water. You see them swollen. Now you miss some hard. Those hard ones, they are the ones that have eaten a lot of feed but has not really drink enough water. Now you need to do this as often as possible. Now within 24 hours, you should have a very good number of them with their crop feel, about 70% of them. Now the next day, you repeat this process to be sure that they are all before eating. This is also very, very important. You don't want to assume that, okay, the feed is there, the water is there, they are eating, they are drinking. No, I know some will eat and drink, but some will be there, just be sitting in one corner not eating. So you need to pay close attention to those ones. Pick them, check their crop. Now if you observe there is anyone whose crop is not filled, kindly take that one to take that chicks to where the drinker is or the feeder is. Now dip the beak in the drinker. You observe that they will take some sip. Move them to where the tray feeder is. You observe that they will start eating. Now you do this when you observe that, okay, they've started eating, then you cannot leave the brooder if you want to leave at that time. Now also remember, you may ask what quantity of glucose, if you want, in case you want to go the synthetic route, what quantity of glucose should you add to their water as anti-stress at arrival, at that day one. Now when you add some quantity of remember, about 15 grams is about 1 teaspoon of 1 teaspoon. Now when you add it to about maybe 1 or 2 liters, you taste it. Now, when you observe that it doesn't taste that taste of glucose, you need to add some more so that you feel that taste before giving it to them. Now, the second test you need to carry out on these chicks is what they call shank test. Now, you see towards their feet, you need to feel it on your cheek. Now, if you feel anyone and you observe that is cold, that means the chicks are not getting enough heat. Now, in that case, you need to increase the temperature so that they will be having enough heat. Another way you could also observe that the chicks are comfortable, having a very good temperature, is their activity level. What do I mean by activity level? You observe that they are evenly spread in the brooder. That means they are okay. Now, but if you observe that they huddled around the heat source, you need to increase the heat. This is very, very important. And also, if you observe that they move away from the heat source, go and line up very far away from the heat source, that means the heat is too much. At this point, you need to reduce the heat, because during sunny day also, you may not need much heat, especially if you are brooding broiler. You may not need more heat this during sunny day. In that case, what you do, you need to open the tarpaulin a little so that more heat can escape. Now, this you don't need to abandon the chicks, go away for 6 hours, go away for 12 hours before coming to check on them. No, every 2 hours, you need to pay close attention to them, because for these first 3 days especially, very, very important, because if your chicks do not die within these 3 days, it will be somehow difficult for them to die if you really follow a good management practices. So these are some of the things you do immediately after your chicks arrive. Thank you so very much. If you are new to my channel, kindly do well to hit the subscribe button, like and comment in the comment section below, as this will do a whole lot for us. Now, if you are a returning subscriber, I appreciate your coming back. Thank you for watching my video. I love you.